they are highly skilled, but we still want to ask for your protection for them at this time. We ask again for your wisdom as we move through these things. We ask again for protection for our students at the schools as they've restarted things back up, and especially for our athletes as they begin the competition just tomorrow night. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Tanner.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Roberts.
Here.
Counselor Churchwell.
Here.
Counselor Counselor Kirkland.
Here.
Mayor Cochran.
Here. And that was a nice faux pas and a compliment to Councilor McCain, one of our former council members. All right. Having the roll call in place, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce everyone to our newest employee, assistant to the clerk, Heather Lynn, if you would. I know the people in the audience here can see you, but she's been working with us for almost 2 weeks now. And where did she come from?
Sneed.
Sneed. Came
Town
from
of
Sneed, has a great amount of experience to bring to the table, and we appreciate you being here. So if anyone on council hasn't had an opportunity to visit with her after the meeting, if we don't stay here till 10 o'clock, she may stick around and be happy to have a conversation with you. All right, Councilor Roberts.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we waive the reading of the minutes of our August 5th meeting, and also to approve the minutes of the August 5th meeting.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the ayes carry. We passed the minutes from the August 5th meeting. As thick as they are, they will be available on the website sometime tomorrow. That's what we do. We try to get it out there as quickly as we can. All right, we're going to go into reports. We had on our agenda Center Point Fire District report, but as it turns out, Chief Coleman's not here right now. I understand that the Center Point Fire Department's out actively working on a fire. And so, like I say, our thoughts and prayers are with those guys. I know that Palmerdale's trying to run some mutual assist with them right now, so we'll skip over that. If Chief Coleman shows up later in the meeting, we'll take him at the time. So we'll move on. Next on the agenda, I would like to bring up Darrell Daly. Where's Darrell? There he is. Darrell, if you would come to the microphone, give us a brief update. Darrell, we hired a few months ago to be a grant writer for us, and he's been working diligently to attempt to find grants that will suit us, that is within the scope of grants that he writes. So council had asked if Darrell could come tonight and give us an update once he...
I've got a PowerPoint, if I have a way to hook it up where y'all can see what's been going on.
We have Apple TV here. You can connect to that and show it.
How do I do that?
Well, Bob, if you would assist. Sometimes technology is your friend, and
I've got
sometimes it's your
Google Drive.
frustrating
That's
enemy.
about the only thing I know to work.
And again, thanks to Eric Winfrey in the back, we're running new technology for our production equipment tonight, attempting to put into the public space everything that we're doing so more people can view it. We've got 2 cameras in the room running, one of which you'll see Darrell on, and the other one you see the council on. The audio is running through our mixing board, so we oftentimes get complaints on Facebook Live and people tell us they can't hear us or there's too much noise. So if you can hear us well tonight, feel free to comment. And if not, feel free to comment on that as well.
There we go. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Since y'all have hired me, just to let y'all know, this is the bulk of what I've been researching. Most of it has been grants that have to do with federal government for equipment. Some of it's been for other grants that have been foundation grants. Foundation grants, if you don't know, are basically private grants like Walmart, Dollar General, Wells Fargo, Coca-Cola, which I've talked to the mayor about Coca-Cola and trying to get some park equipment.
And some Dollar General grants we've talked about, how to
Yeah.
go get that.
And those grants right there came up in March. And by the time I looked at them and was able to look at the grant that they wanted, it was closing. So I was not able to apply for those or even talk to the mayor about trying to apply for those. But we're going to try to go for them next year if we're still here. Right now, the grant that is available that I've talked to the mayor about and is a Homeland Security grant, which is funneled through the EMA. All right. Alabama and FEMA, EMA, and ALEA kind of all worked together on this. It just went blank on me, didn't it? That's my dad, sorry. All right. There we go. All right.
Darrell, if you'll touch it occasionally, it'll keep your
Sir?
screen live. What's happening is when your phone goes down, we lose the picture.
Yeah, I noticed that. I got to figure out how to. I'm not a phone tech guy.
You just keep touching it.
Anyhow, all right. Right now, what we have available is the ALEA grant. The ALEA grant is through the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. It is a grant that has three parts to it. You can either apply for a Emergency Operations Command, inoperable radios, soft barriers, targets, security measures. Okay. What would happen if a fire struck this building? What happened if the power totally went out and you lost power for several days? Okay, well, never mind. Just go ahead. If you lost power for several days, you're dead in the water. You have no way to communicate, no way to talk to your public works, no way to talk to leaders around, or even the citizens to call in. So the mayor has said, well, what about a command center where we can keep things going, operational, where it would be sort of like a command for the mayor, city clerk, public works, fire departments, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. It'd be the same structure as what Jefferson County has, EMA, except on a smaller scale. So as to where things can keep functioning, where you can get personnel in, equipment in. You can work everything from there to make it smooth, where it will flow smoothly. And if you have another tornado, which I hope you don't, how bad were the streets messed up that you couldn't get things in or out? Fire trucks could not get in, law enforcement could not get in, rescue could not get in to help those that were injured. By doing this, you would have a plan in place, and if it's triggered, if you set that in motion, everything hopefully will run smoothly where you can get trucks in, equipment in, firefighters in, first responders, so forth. And everything will run smoothly to where you can contact the Jefferson County and say, hey, this is what we need. All right?
Well, and to Darrell's point on that particular grant, since I've been in the middle of it, we had our VC3 come out here and give us some specs. They looked at the spot in the building where we're talking about putting this command center, if you will, which is down close to the showers back there, which is what you would need in a command center. You need to be able to have a place where people can sleep, take a bath, and operate. It would be a 4-station command center. And so we're looking at going after that grant, and then if we're able to get that grant and it makes sense to us, and bear in mind, you can always say no to a grant if you don't like the way the numbers add up. If we like the way that one adds up, the next one you'd go after is an entire building generator, so that whatever might have happened, we can operate here. So, for example, if the Centerpoint courthouse got hit, and that's a place where our sheriff's department operates a lot of deputies out of, they could shift gears and come here and operate from this particular location. Or let's say Centerpoint Fire or even Palmerdale Fire. One of their buildings got hit and they need to come here and help run operations for a while. So it'll serve not only Pinson City Hall, but it can serve the greater good for first responders. And so that's kind of what we're thinking on that particular grant. So we've got that one out there that we're working on currently, and I believe that would lead us into a grant for the whole building generator as well, all of which would be helpful service for the community and the building. And so it's a broader scale, and I want people, you know, from the community to know we're not just talking about buying a bunch of computers just for the heck of it. We're trying to have emergency preparedness, not only for the operation of City Hall, but also some of our like government entities around us that might need our help. I mean, even the city of Centerpoint, for example, they may have some catastrophic happen. We could shift gears, bring those guys in here and let them work and that type of thing. So it's a preparedness type grant. So that's that kind of grant, and the subsequent grant that I think we're talking about. The Coca-Cola grants that Darrell has mentioned, which we haven't submitted for one yet, is more for your parks and recs type situation. So basically with Darrell, at this moment, we have a sort of narrow focus on the types of grants, but I would welcome any questions from the dais, from the council, on what types of other grants that you might have in your mind that perhaps we're not looking at. Dawn, Brad, anybody, questions for Darrell or myself?
I do have a question. In talking about a command center, which I think is a good idea, but we've talked about purchasing phones that are for first responders and government entities that are not relied on the towers.
Right.
Is that something that could possibly purchase?
Well, we have those now. That
Oh, I
first-
see.
The FirstNet system, we did
Okay.
agree to buy that.
That checks out.
Basically, it just replaced the system that we already had, the Verizon phones. So now we're on the FirstNet network with all of our phones here at City
Okay.
Hall, all of our cell phones.
My next thing is, are you just looking at certain websites or whatever to do your research? Or I'm just curious, and the reason I'm asking, because council's asked about what you've been working on, and apparently you've been working on something, and we just don't know because we haven't heard from you in,
Right.
5 or 6 months, and this is something that maybe every 90 days we need to kind of see what you're working on, that we're not just paying you, So we just need to make sure where, all the information you're looking at and all that.
Most of the grants that I do, most of the grants I work on.
Microphone can't hear you out in the room, Darrell.
Sir?
Microphone can't hear you out in the room.
Well, I do better with my.
Well, the TV does better
okay.
when it can hear you.
Most of the grants that I do are based on grants.gov. The state has just come out with a brand new portal that's just like grants.gov. Okay, that's where a deck of grants are going to be for the community development. That's where the grants that I'm working on now for y'all, for the city are found. I'm looking on Wales. I'm looking on the private grants. Wales Fargo is found on their site. Dollar General is found on their site. Walmart is found on their site. So there's a bunch of different sites that I can look at. If you have a particular site that you want me to look at, I'll be glad to look at it.
No, I don't. I'm just, making, just curious where you're doing your research and all that.
Yeah.
So if we're not missing something, and I don't know what I'm saying we're missing because I don't know. I do know Bill Gates has a foundation also.
He does.
Because I know, I think the ballpark a long time ago tried to apply for one. But anyway, so I know there's a bunch out there. I know that.
There are. And if I'm not seeing one that you want me to take a look at, if you'll let the mayor know, or I'll be glad to give you my phone number, email address, and you just send me, say, can you take a look at this? One of the grants that I did this month was a grant that had to do mostly where the states could apply for funding on emergency preparedness for another pandemic. It had to do with the pandemic, how to get people housed, how to get food in if things close down, how to help citizens who might be in need of care. So that's what that grant dealt with. And by the time that I go through the grant 4 times of reading it, then I realize it's strictly for the states to apply. The city couldn't apply because it doesn't meet the criteria. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think part of the process tonight for council, and again, in fairness, Darrell and I communicate quite a bit, but you don't get to communicate with council that much. And that's why they, although Dawn is not an Alabama fan.
No, I'm
She's
not.
just trying to understand the process.
Yes, sir.
As
Yes,
Judge Saban would say.
Well, let me give you some good news. Your grant is written. I'm just waiting on.
Waiting on the attachment.
I'm just waiting on the quote to come in, and then once we do that,
And you're on that email chain between us and VC3, and y'all
I
are
am.
communicating back and forth, and just
Yes,
make
sir.
sure that they don't miss a deadline.
yes, sir. I just wanted the council to know that it's ready. I mean, it's ready to go. I wanted you to know because you didn't know.
Oh, yeah,
And so that's some good news for you.
absolutely, and we appreciate that. Robbie, anybody else have questions or
Yes, I do.
suggestions?
I know most people think of grants as free. It's free. But actually, if it's still the way I used to know about it with the cities, it's not really free. What is it? Explain.
Okay.
I have forgotten, so enlighten me.
Some grants are basically a non-matching grant, which means there's no money spent by you, okay? Some grants
Free.
some grants are a 50-50 split, which means that the city would put in 50, they would put in 50. This particular grant, since they have cut out the middleman now, EMA is no longer involved to where you don't spend anything. It's now a reimbursement type grant, which means if you approve for this grant to go forward, which it would take council approval for it to go forward, is then once, if they say yes, that we'll give you the funding, then the city has to go and purchase that equipment out of budget. And then once it's finally paid, all of the equipment's purchased and invoiced in, then you submit to get reimbursed by the state.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it could be a multitude of different types of grants. It could be an 80-20 match, 50-50 grant, 100% match, reimbursable grant. There's just so many types still out there. And you don't know until you get to the particular one as to what it's about. This one in particular would be, we spend all the money up front and then we'd be reimbursed for
You
it
get it back.
if we were
What-
approved.
Right. And really, on my part, what I try to find is a non-matching grant to where it doesn't cost you any money out of pocket.
Okay.
And I'm okay with matching grants. So it depends on what it is and
Yeah.
what the match is. There's,
Okay.
and again, you bring these types of things before council. Even if we got them and we didn't like the match and say, for example, you got a nice 80-20 match grant for $20 million, we would probably have to say no to that one.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we couldn't match the 20%.
Right.
But as a general rule, it's kind of all over the place. It's like a shotgun.
Yeah. And just to let the
Yes,
council
go
know,
ahead.
normally, if I do find a grant that might meet what you're looking for, I do let the mayor know.
Okay. I used to be involved with the grants with the city where I was before, and we had a grant writer, and he would every year or every couple 2 or 3 years maybe, he would come to us, and the government had a certain amount of money. It would, and I don't remember what it was called right now, but there would be a certain amount of money allotted for. The town would get. Say $400,000, say, and it was designated for citizens that had homes that needed to be repaired, like a roof, deteriorating, and just different things. And we would pick certain homes that it had that, and so they would say this would be amount of money for this one and this one, this one. Say we would have 6 homes that could be repaired or updated to use this grant money for. Can you find out what that is? I mean, I can go back in my files and find out, but,
I can do my best to find out for you.
okay.
I know from time to time, the state has money that is sitting there that has not been used or allocated for funding, and that may be something that it can be used for.
Okay, and then I'll look also in my files and see if I can find the name of that grant,
Okay.
because,
If you can do that, if you'll get with the mayor tonight, he will give y'all my phone number, email address, and y'all can contact me anytime if you have a question or if you need me to check on something. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so Darrell, I had questions about your process and
Yes,
everything there. So you, obviously you've been working on something, you held up this big stack of stuff. So take me through a little bit here. There's two aspects. One is, of course, identifying a need, which you've identified potentially a need here with the command center. So I'm assuming you're getting familiar with things around here that we might need to
I'm
have.
trying.
And then try to find potential grants that would match up with that. Obviously, if you
Yes,
get us a grant for snow equipment, that might not interest us as much as some other things. So I'm being facetious by saying that. But
Once every 10 years, it might.
Yeah. Say,
I was thinking more about actual ski equipment or something like that.
process would be kind of like this. If you said, hey, Darrell, we need to find some defibrillators that we can install inside
Okay.
City Hall, okay? There's actually several websites out there that will do those type grants, and they're called AEDs.
Correct.
All right, and you can apply for them, and basically you go get a quote from a vendor to find out exactly how many you need, where you want to put them, how much they cost. All right. From that vendor, then you can apply for this grant. Say we would like to put 6 or 7 in here. This is what it's going to cost, X amount of money. All right. Then you submit that grant, and then hopefully they say, okay, here's your funding. It's a non-matching, which means you get them for nothing, and you can put them in. And then the first thing I'll go look for is to make sure what type of match is, if it's a 80-20, 50-50, 1-for-1, or a non-matching. That's the first thing I go look for, because I don't want to cost you any money as far as the city that you don't need to go do. And if it doesn't fit what you're looking for, and it doesn't fit the criteria that's set out in the grant that would fit your needs, I'm not going to bring it to you to say, hey, apply for this, but yet I don't think you're going to get it, then it does you no
Yes,
good.
like the example the mayor gave, where it's something that's beyond our grasp, obviously. So all the files that you shared, could you share with us some of the? I mean, were these some of the places that you've already contacted, or?
Let me say that.
I gave a basic outline there of the two halves that are required. Obviously, half one is identifying the need, half two is finding out whether or not there's a way to supply it. I just didn't know if you might tell us a little bit about how you've been doing this. And
Okay.
we're not trying to go in the grant
No.
writing business. We just want to know what you've been up to.
Basically is this, all right, like FEMA, okay? FEMA puts out a emergency preparedness grant. There's been 2 of them out so far.
Okay.
All right. And when I'm dealt with the pandemic, when I'm dealt with creating a network to get stuff in, logistics, okay? All right. That's what that grant was for, and it dealt with the larger cities, New York, Chicago. Believe it or not, Hoover was on the list. Birmingham was on the list. So that grant dealt with getting money to them to get coordinated during a pandemic or during a catastrophe. All right. Another grant like this one would be considered a emergency preparedness grant, because there's 3 categories that you can apply for: EOC, inoperable radios, security measures, soft barrier fencing, target, upgrade to your security locks, cameras, so forth, so on. All right. Walmart deals with giving money to and it's a non-matching, but it's a very little amount, like $3,000 to use for, say, if you need part of a swing set done or something. All right. Coca-Cola will come in if you say, okay, we want to upgrade our facilities and our playground, and this is what it's going to cost us from this vendor. Coca-Cola will then hopefully say, okay, here's your X amount of money, and they'll come out and bring a Coca-Cola sign, Coca-Cola Park. All right. Wells Fargo is a foundation private grant. You apply for it, and then hopefully, and then I guess what I'm trying to get at, as long as you can state what you want to use that grant for on a private funding grant and use it for that, you're going to be fine, just like with any grant.
I understand, but you're getting into the logistics of how you would do it. I'm more specifically interested in what specifically have you been working on? You got this big file, and just rattle off a few of the things that you've been working on, and then that way I'd say, okay,
All right,
this
this one
makes
right
sense.
this one right here is a Homeland security grant.
Okay.
And again, I hate to remind you of the microphone that needs to hear you.
Okay.
Don't feel bad. I like to
All right,
work around too.
this one right here is a DECA. I looked at it, saw what was on it, it was already closed.
Gotcha.
Oh, excuse me. This one right here is $1, this is a Dollar General.
Okay.
All right, some of them are very short, some of them are very small. All right. Another one right here is a DHS, Department of Homeland Security. This is a notice of funding. This is one that had already closed out by the time I looked at it. Okay, some of them that I find that I think about. There's a NHTSA grant, Highway Traffic Safety Grant that's out. Okay, that has to do with click it or ticket, impaired driving, and those type functions. Okay.
Well, I think what he's really speaking more to is, how do you know what to go find? How do you research finding
Okay.
it? And not necessarily the specific grants themselves, but, okay, how do you get notified? How do you say, well, let me go research this grant? Let me go, what's that process? Not the specific grants
Okay.
themselves.
No, but what you were saying though was helpful, because I mean because as you
What
went
I-
through those, that kind of told me a little bit about the areas that you've been looking at.
What I try to do is, like on so far with these grants here, I will put a note on my calendar, and they should roll around about the same time each year, okay? And then then hopefully, then about 3 months before, I'll see if it's gonna start coming out. Once it comes out and the notice of funding gets put on there, then I'm able to see what's on that grant.
Okay.
All right. Like like the parks that the mayor wants to do. He's already given me a list of some things to try to find, okay? And then I'll just go in there and look at the different websites, like grants.gov, and I'll type in a search word, and I'll look and see if I can find something that matches that. Then I'll pull the grant up and see if it matches anything more. And I'll try to do it step by step.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Because we have some more presenters, but I don't want to cut anybody short at all. You guys good? Well, Darrell, we appreciate the presentation. I think you'll be around for the duration of the meeting tonight. And so if people have offline questions they'd like to ask Darrell, feel free to approach him, ask him anything you want, make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Totally good with that.
All right.
Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, next up, we have Buyers Right Insurance Company going to make a brief presentation about who they are and what they bring to the table. You guys, you could actually use the microphone. You can take it from the cradle if you need to. Your call.
This will be just fine. Appreciate it, Mayor and City Council, for giving us a few minutes. We'll take just a brief amount of time for having us come out tonight. I'm Paul Burnett with Buyers Right Insurance, Vice President. This is Lyric Welty, one of our brokers, and John Byers, he's our president. We're a insurance agency based out of Gardendale, where we work out of. We have offices in Jasper, Coleman, Decatur, Alabaster, and Birmingham. A little bit about myself. I've been a reserve deputy for Jefferson County for 21 years and currently the chief of the Birmingham division. So get to work with Bob every once in a while, and have run that program for a few years and enjoyed a long relationship with the city of Pinson. And I greatly appreciate the support that you provide to my reserve division. So I don't know that I've ever got to publicly come and thank y'all for that, but wanted to start with that.
Well, we appreciate what you reservists do. I'm going to be honest with you, because you do a lot of work, and all we really have to do most of the time is feed you.
Yeah, and we like to be fed.
And we appreciate that. I mean, it's an invaluable service. Oftentimes, there's not enough deputies to go around. You guys fill the void greatly. We appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome, and I've enjoyed a long relationship with the city of Pinson through a law enforcement relationship. But along those same lines, I've worked in risk management and with insurance. And just a little bit of history about myself there, and then as well as you look on our second page, history about our agency. I've shared where we have some locations. We're celebrating our 75th year as an agency. John's grandparents actually started the agency in Jasper, Alabama. His grandmother's still alive. I think she's 92.
She's 98.
98.
Wow.
Okay, 98. Started the agency, and she's still as sharp as ever. Still keeps John in line. So,
Tough job, but she does.
but one of our specialties, one of our niches, is municipalities. We work with many municipalities, and what we try to do is we weigh what is your overall cost of insurance. A lot of people get hung up on premium, but there are a lot of hidden costs within insurance and risk management that we bring a specialty to the relationship, that we weigh all those things, some of which John's going to share here in just a minute. The way we work with you is like I said, in our mottos where relationships matter. We want to be in a relationship with the city of Pinson. We want to be your broker to represent you to the insurance carriers that are out there, to the risk management opportunities that are out there, and with the services that we provide as being a specialist in this area. So with that, I'm going to let John share a little bit about some of our partners and some of the things that we do.
And I'm not good at standing in place, so I'm gonna take her off there. But obviously, first off, I want to thank the council for giving us the opportunity. To the mayor and to city clerk, Miss Marie. We've obviously met before, but it's a pleasure to be here. Heather, no, without any question, you're joining a great team, and so you can see the council's got a proposal here that kind of walks through some of the other municipalities that our agency currently works with, and just so y'all will be able to hear those, Alabaster, Coleman, Jasper, Gardendale, Hanceville, Florence, Clay, Montevallo, and Clear are a few that are on this sheet. But what that means, and Lyric's going to speak a little bit about, give you a little background about what our meeting was the last time, and then also what we believe that setting expectations so that you can't hold someone accountable unless you first set the expectations. So we're big on setting expectations so that we either do what we say we're going to do or we don't. And if we don't do what we say we're going to do, then we won't be in business another 75 years. But what I want to focus on, because Paul was talking about total cost of insurance. Sure, there's a premium. There is a cost to insure a building. There's a cost to insure the liability when it comes to an event. But we also focus on the risk management side, the risk mitigation side, which is it's hoping that we can avoid being on AL.com, to be honest with you. That's because if there are holes in your risk mitigation program, risk avoidance, loss prevention, liability transfer, that is where we play a major role on advising municipalities on you shouldn't do this, or if you're going to have this event and you're going to have vendors, what liability coverages do they have in place, and are the contracts in place to protect the city? And then finally, risk reputation. Like I was saying, AO.com, reputation is so important for municipalities as you're trying to attract businesses, trying to attract new families into the area. So again, I'm trying to condense this. I get excited a little bit, but that is really the total cost of insurance is the premium, but it's also what can we do as a team, which requires buy-in from the leadership of the city as well, to protect Pinson from any avoidable liability, claims and scenarios. Okay, so Lyric, I'm gonna let you kind of talk about what we've done so far, and then kind of what the next steps would be.
Okay. So we have 3 steps to kind of our process, and that is understanding is essential, trust is earned, and execution is everything. So on July 29th, we sat down with Joe, Marie, and Bob, and we wanted to understand the city of Pinson and tell a little bit about Buyers Right and set those expectations of what you guys can expect from us if you chose for us to be your partner. And then Marie, she promptly gave us the policies that we needed to do a thorough review, and we began doing that risk management assessment and insurance review right away. And then today, we're telling you guys our plan of action, and then we're setting the expectations to you guys as the council. And our next step, if to go from here, would be for us to be recognized as the broker of record. And so that kind of looks like signing a broker of record letter, and that would be us being officially recognized as your guys' agent going forward. Right after that, then we would do a claims analysis with our claims team and our claims director, and then we can kind of really go through that process of giving you guys the best risk management that we can to prevent any claims going forward. And then right after that, our process is to meet on a regular basis to give you guys our recommendations and just kind of go over our risk management priorities.
All right, so you guys have any questions for him? Because the primary question that I think would be on everyone's mind is we have someone that represents us on our insurance today. What makes you different? Why are you better? It's not always about dollars and cents. Our expectation is we're not going to spend more on insurance with you. Perhaps we could spend less. You may find gaps in our coverage that indeed makes us actually spend a little bit more and say, we really advise you have this and you don't. But why are you better at it, and why do you service the municipality more so than what we have today?
It's a great question, Mayor. What we do is, since we do specialize in this, we've seen the things in other cities, other municipalities that have caused issues. We learn from them, and then we figure out the best way to mitigate those losses and those potential losses. With that as well, we invest a lot in technology within our own agency, within automation, giving you the resources that you need electronically, online, anything that you need that any part of your policy, auto ID cards, certificates, any of that is readily available through the programs that we've put together. But mainly what we do is we take what you got, we have multiple other insurance markets that a lot of agencies don't have access to. So we can go out to market. Maybe there's particular coverages that we can get somewhere else that are less expensive. Maybe we can find coverages that are broader than what you have right now. When we talk about overall cost of insurance, it's kind of like I tell the story of if you have one piece of equipment that was missed, it didn't get covered. It's a $40,000 tractor. Well, you self-insured it. That's what happened. Yeah. So that's the total cost of insurance because you self-insured it because it got missed in a policy review. That's something that we always, we're never just going to drop a policy on someone's desk. We sit down with you, we go through it, we summarize it, we say this is the coverage here, what it applies to, is it adequate? We do building assessments, making sure that buildings are insured to value. That's another exposure, especially nowadays with building costs being so much more than they have been. And when was the last time that the buildings that the city owns were evaluated? We're seeing as an industry that most buildings are about 40, 50% underinsured. So if you have a loss, that means that you are self-insuring 40 to 50% of the cost of that. If it's truly going to be replaced, then that's the part that your insurance cost would be on top of premiums. So those are some of the things that we do.
Pretty consistent, staying on top of things, especially where the markets have moved recently. Where we might be underinsured right now, then we beef that up, and then a year from now we may be overinsured. It's a constant ebb and flow. So does anybody on council have questions for these guys? Because what they're proposing is they want to be our agent in place of the agent that we currently have. We've had the agent that we've had for quite a few years. And so they're trying to build a compelling case as to why they should be our agent. I will tell you that I've had phone calls from a couple of different municipal leaders that neighbor us that use these guys and have sang their praises, gave them high recommendations. One of my big things was technology. What does it bring to the table? A portal. How do we get to documents quickly if we need to? They're in a cloud. It's not something we have to go rummage through file cabinets that might be up in smoke to figure out where our policies are in a very quick fashion. I was ensured that they have that. That's readily available. Makes it user-friendly, easy for us to get to the documents we need to get to at any moment's notice. So those types of things are the kind of things that, to me, make sense. But it'll be up to you guys to decide that. So if you have any good questions, now's a great time. Or, again, you can feel free to call these guys offline or talk to them at any time and get your own assessment.
And we'll welcome any questions. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what Paul said, if you'll give me just a second, is the portal, for example, is a great resource. It's a great tool, but we're not selling bells and whistles. That's not what our agency, those are great to have. We consider ourselves, it's a true partnership, a trusted advisor, no different than a doctor, attorney, someone you lean on to get professional advice. You know, each one of them has a cell phone the agency pays for, and it's available 24/7. Because if the city's got an event going on and you've got vendors coming in and you need some advice on what should you do, what insurance requirements should you be asking for, what language should the certificate have on it, who's coaching you through that? That's our job. That's what we get paid for. Otherwise, we shouldn't get any commission. You know, that is, so it is an ongoing process. It's just like if you go to the doctor's office and they try to write you a prescription before they've even listened or even attempted to understand what's going on. That's why Lyric was saying understanding is essential. That's our job, is to learn Pinson. Also, the insurance is a big part of that, but the insurance is the safety net. That's the safety net. But if the insurance kicks in, guess what? Something's happened. Something's happened. Either someone has gotten injured, we have a liability claim, or we've had property damage. If we can do anything in our power to prevent that, that's our job. So you got two aspects, and that's our job, to make sure we do everything we can to coach y'all up. And that's why it's a team effort. It's an extension of your team. That's the way we look at it.
Sorry, any questions, anybody?
Yeah, I had
John?
one.
Sure.
You know what kind of insurance we've got now, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Are you going to take that and go back and compare it with what you think it should be and present that to us to consider along with what we've got?
Typically, what we can review we can review the policy, but we can't actually make any changes until we become the
Right.
actual
Right.
broker of record. So we can look through that and put a plan together, but we can't implement any changes or anything.
Right.
And another thing about the way the process works, everything in the insurance world is renewal date driven. That's just the way it is. We live and die by a renewal date. Your renewal date is November the 5th. And so there's a certain period of time that it has to be prior to 45 days that we have to be recognized as the broker of record. So once we became that, we would have 45 days prior to the renewal to be able to make any kind of change, assessment, anything like that we would need to.
Right, and my assessment of the entire situation is basically this. If we are gonna make that change, I would like to make it at the next meeting, not tonight, but give everybody an opportunity to continue to make phone calls, do research, come up with what you wanna do. And by the next meeting, make a decision one way or the other. We're either gonna change or stay with what we got.
And that would give us plenty of time at that next
Gives you
meeting.
plenty of time outside that 45-day window and all of that. So, additional questions?
I don't have any questions. I just have a statement really about their fundamentals. To look at these, they're pretty strong. They have 31 of them, and starts out with take pride in your appearance, all the way to making healthy choices and everything in between. I mean, just reading through these, it's pretty good. I mean, it sounds like you do care, you know, for what you do for your, you know, your people and everything, so.
And again, I can attest to their reputation simply from the surrounding municipalities that have called me on their behalf saying, I heard you guys are looking at this company, and I want you to know that we're extraordinarily happy with them. They've done a fantastic job for us. That's unsolicited calls coming my way. You may have asked someone from Gardendale to call me. It's possible. But at the end of the day, I trust that gentleman from Gardendale that called me. I trust his opinion. I've known him for many years, and the same with my friends from Clay and other places. So the recommendations come in strong.
And I do want to add, and I know y'all don't want to hear about insurance all night long, so we'll wrap up. I know, but we like to talk about it every now and then, don't we, Larry? It's really a win-win-win. The way the plan works out is focusing on think of it as if you go into a restaurant. A lot of times you'll look at like a Yelp app, or you look at Google reviews, or certainly on Netflix you're going to look and see, you know, how many stars. Or recruit, how many stars. Our job is to, through effective risk management, figuring out, okay, where are the potential holes, where are the gaps, not in the insurance policies, but in what you have in place currently from a risk mitigation standpoint, that we can help supplement that based on either our in-house people. We have in-house loss control, doesn't cost you an extra dime. That will raise your stars based on the quality of your risk management program. Once those stars are raised, guess what that does when we go to the market? It allows us to get the city preferred conditions, pricing. Paul, what was your terminology? Overall cost effectiveness. That is the approach. It's the win, because hopefully we're preventing claims, but then hopefully we're also putting you in the best possible scenario from a cost-effective program as well.
Fantastic. All right, any additional questions or comments?
I have one.
Robert.
I appreciate you guys coming and taking the initiative, you know, to actually take a look at this. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I've seen a very good review of what we currently have, and I'm kind of curious as to exactly where that's at, so I appreciate y'all's initiative. But I do have a question to pose for you, and that is that suppose we agreed to go with you guys, and then this time next year, another individual, a different company comes in and gives a similar presentation to what y'all have. What would your advice be at that time? Because I feel like we've heard y'all's presentation, which was excellent, but I haven't heard from our current vendor, nor from other vendors. And I don't think y'all would appreciate, if y'all had formed a relationship with us, having that cut off without an opportunity to respond or you know, take a closer look at it. So again, I appreciate y'all coming, but I'm a little bit leery of the fact that I would not want to fully investigate. I have experience in the past. I've formerly worked with the fire district, and we brought in multiple vendors, got several different quotes and stuff, and I realize the big picture is important. You guys have articulated that very well tonight. Obviously, we can save a lot of money on the insurance and still maintain our insurability if we look at loss control. But the reality, though, is assuming we all stay on an even basis on that, it's really how much money you're going to save us is really where it counts. So I just say that as a question there for you. What would you recommend that we do if we found ourselves in the similar shoes this time next year with a different set of folks?
You want me to answer that? We're very transparent, so I will tell you. Honestly, if that were to happen, if another agent, let's say, were welcome to this platform a year from now, we probably didn't do our job. We probably didn't do what we said we were going to do. We probably didn't execute. Otherwise, it wouldn't even make sense to waste time at a council meeting for somebody else to come up here, and unless it's part of it's required. Execution is everything is the last part of our value proposition. So we would welcome. If that's something y'all wanted to do, but I think that I know you could bring, in every insurance agent in this part of the state and let them come to the microphone And I think you'll be satisfied with what we've done over the past year. And as Paul will tell you, if you're not, you can fire us. That's our approach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's, I think that, yeah, it's easy for us to say what we're going to do. But everyone that makes that decision, I would say, just compare to where you're at now. I mean, what services have you received? What attention have you received? How many policy reviews have you gone through? Was your policy presented to you and explained and ran through? Because there's been opportunities to do that. We haven't had that opportunity yet. We would like to earn that opportunity, though, and be able to do that.
That's fair.
Very nice. All right, thank you, guys. You know how to hang that mic back up? It can be challenging.
Yeah, I think I got it.
You guys seem like y'all been around that time.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
We appreciate it,
Thank
guys.
you.
Centerpoint was late tonight because they've been out working. If it's okay with those guys, can I hold you to the end of the meeting? Since we've run fairly long on our first two presentations, which is perfectly fine. Everybody knows I don't mind having a long meeting.
Yeah.
But I would like to move on to some other things. We can come back to that if that's okay. All right, moving on, go to payment of the bills. Counselor Tanner.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $63,456.54.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any highlights, questions, or comments?
I'll just say the only large one we really had was done construction, and that was for, I believe, paving materials at Bicentennial.
Right, you combine that with what we paid for the actual paving process, and that is your full total bill. So, and the reason we do that for the public consumption is we can buy the materials for paving much cheaper than can the actual paving companies because of our position as being a municipality, and so that's how we do it. Any additional comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of paying the bills say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect, we shall pay the bills. All right, moving on, Counselor Tanner.
Just a brief review of our last movie in the park a couple of weeks ago. It was what we called our Back to School Bash. I think there's maybe around 250 about that.
I would say there was probably, if you had to look and say how many people came through the park that night.
Oh, there'd be a lot more.
More like 350 to 400. How many were at the movie? 200 to 250. It was a really good crowd.
It was really good. The city cooked hot dogs, so we, served food. Palmerdale United Methodist Church was there with school supplies. They ran out and got more. But I thought it went really, really good. The weather was wonderful. Anyway, it's a good movie.
It was indeed, I agree. I was able to attend as well as most of council. I think one was with his daughter, and I completely understand why you would not be there that night. Robbie actually made it by that night too.
I did finally get to see it.
And so.
It was a happening event.
But I appreciate the fact we had a back to school bash. We tried to gear a movie a little bit toward the older crowd. It's not typical. We did Black Panther. Most people seem to enjoy the film. I would be honest and say I didn't watch the movie as much as I could have, although I stayed for the duration. Perhaps I was talking with people half the night. I know everyone finds that hard to believe.
It was food, fun, and fellowship.
It was very
indeed.
good.
Any additional comments on that?
Mr. Mayor, I have no more on that. The only thing I'd like to say is just kind of look forward to maybe us proposing or me proposing a movie around Christmas time.
I think that's a fine idea. You might need to have some hot chocolate, maybe some blankets and that kind of thing. I think it would be welcome.
Okay.
I did do an informal survey at the last movie, and many people were in favor of that. All right, moving on to the Pinson Youth Sports Complex and the Phcc ADA upgrades. We had some questions earlier a week or so ago from a council member, which is a very fair question about paving at the PHCC. And several months prior to that, we had actually decided we have some pricing on what it would cost to pave that parking lot, but we also know we're waiting on our architects to come back with what it's going to cost to fix the windows if we choose to go that particular route. And there's some other things that need repair and what have you there. So we're waiting on this report to come in sometime in September to give us a better idea of the overall expenses before we made a decision on the paving. Because although we would love to just do the paving now and say when this comes in, we'll just do it, without knowing what the cost is going to be, that would not be advisable. The windows themselves might consume more of the budget than we can do the paving with. And at that point, we would seek advice from the PHCC board as to, hey, you've got a choice. Here's what we can afford to do. Would you rather have it done here now or done there now, and that type of thing. Obviously, they have a board. We always seek their advice on what kind of projects they want to have done. They have events at the facility. They collect monies, and they take those monies and put them back into the facility. They save up, and they find particular projects they think are important, and they come back to see and say, here's what we think we want to do. And since we have a cooperative agreement, we have the lease on the building, and we pay the power bill, et cetera, we just have a conversation in that way. So that being said, we had a timeline on this. Like I say, I think bid letting on what we have to do at the park, not what we want to do. There's not a lot of electives on that. There will be a parking lot project as part of that, along with some other changes of grading in some areas of parking, as well as around the concession area, trying to make things as compliant as humanly possible according to the law. And as most people know me, I love the law. I think it's a great thing. It gives us great guidance, but I want to make things right because they need to be right. And you need to be as open as you possibly can. So that's basically my report on this. So I'll entertain any questions anybody has about it.
Could we get Bob to print us out some larger versions here of the architect's proposal?
We can try. Currently, Bob's offline with his big printer. We should have that resolved in about a week. So it's currently not available. I could send it to an outside provider and ask them to print larger versions for us, if you want me to.
I don't mean the full size. But I understand that's the only size we can.
It's the only large scale printer, but I can send it to an outside vendor that has the same type of printing
11
capabilities.
by 17 would be legible.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
Or might even go a little larger than that. But this is basically what we've received from our architects, and we met with the architects at the park last week. Eric and I did, to talk about some additional things on the wish list. And the reason we were doing that is we're trying to find synergies. We're trying to find places, well, if I've got this equipment out doing this, that, and the other, and that I could also use it to do this thing that we want to do, then we try to make that all mesh together and have some, cost savings there by doing that. And that includes PHCC work as well as the Pinson Youth Sports Park. But yeah, I can try to get larger printed versions of this for everybody this week. Not a problem.
So the architect did get back with us. You guys met with him, and y'all discussed the community center on the windows and everything?
Yeah, and they're supposed to come back with a design on the windows. We met with them at the community center several months ago and talked about the windows. Bear in mind, all of this started in the previous council.
I know.
But I have had subsequent conversations about the windows themselves and what the ideas for addressing the windows are, and asked for options. I said, I hear what you're saying about that, but I would like to see what it would cost to do it this way and do it that way. Because you may desire and say, well, I don't like this look. Well, if the other look cost you $275,000 that you don't have, then maybe that looks okay. And so those are just decisions,
Yeah.
I mean, we can express what we desire it to be, but then we have to see where the cost is. And so, yeah, I have asked for both of those options to happen with this particular architect. We are invested with this architect on the project. We've already paid them quite a bit of money on the project. And like I say, one of my goals at the PHC is beyond just the windows, but also making the other door down toward the end an ADA compliant.
Right.
Because it should be. And that's fixing the railing, fixing the grade, fixing the size of the path and how you get in and out of the doors and those type of things. I desire to have that done. Doesn't mean it's going to be done that way, but I'm asking for costing on that to be presented. What would it cost to do that? Because I think it's important, like I said, not to do things because we're over a barrel or we have to. I like to do things whenever possible because it's the right thing to do.
Did he give us a time frame?
Yeah, September is when they're supposed to come.
That's when it is? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
that's when we start finding out some things.
I was reminded of the old expression there, beauty is in the eye of the price tag. As you
Oftentimes it is. I mean, yeah, obviously, when I'm 18 years old, I'm driving a Pinto. I want to be driving a Corvette, but my finances told me that I'm going to drive a Pinto. Now, as a 50-year-old, perhaps I can drive the Corvette. My finances dictated as poorly as when I was. So yeah, beauty's in the eye of the cost. Absolutely. You are correct on that. All right. Also, Glenda, if you would. On the line of credit.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for us to renew our line of credit, which expires September 27th, 2021.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You do.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Just for public consumption, that line of credit cost us about $5,000 a year to maintain, but we feel like it's well worth keeping that line of credit in place just in case a catastrophic event were to happen. We would be able to respond quickly and nimbly. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let the record reflect the ayes carried. We will sign up to maintain that line of credit. Also want to have a discussion concerning the COVID policy and procedures within the city facilities. That is primarily toward the last year when this all happened, again, prior to my being on board. There was a policy that we used that if someone came in and said, hey, or called in and said, by the way, I've been exposed, I need to quarantine for 10 days, etc. For the most part, some people can work remotely, some people can't work remotely. But I believe the policy at the time was we're gonna continue to pay people, whether they can work remotely or not. We're gonna treat everybody the same and pay them because there's nothing they can do about this. Now, we know if they get sick, now we get into sick time. That's a completely different thing than what we're talking about here. So what I'm looking for from the council is direction on a policy, whether written or just verbally, saying we would like to continue the way it was done in the past. Say Joe comes in and says, I've been exposed, you've all been exposed, we've got to shut City Hall down for the next 10 days, work remotely, everybody go home. All the staff continues to get paid. The same thing could happen at the library. The same thing could happen with any of our facilities. So, any ideas or directions in that way?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, John.
I think that we need to go ahead and have a good written policy. I think we need a written policy on this.
Okay.
Making some changes as needed from what we've oral way that we've been going, but to me, a written policy is always better than having to make a decision every time something comes up, whether we're going to do it this way or that way.
I agree, and I believe our attorney would agree with your assessment as well.
Well, the good thing about having that written policy is we could let the staff know. In the pre-council, I mentioned the fact that the last thing that I wanted to see us have happen would be someone due to financial hardship deciding they needed to come on into work, even though they may have tested positive or been exposed to someone in their family that's tested positive, and then we end up losing half the staff because they're out sick. So,
Well, I think in our policy, it should also state that if you have tested positive, that you absolutely do not come to work and report it to your supervisor.
Excellent.
Yeah, and make that part of the policy as well. So, do you guys want us to get a policy written? Because obviously we'll have Mr. Black and his crew write the policy for us because they write in those legal terms. Basically carrying on what we've done in the past. And again, I'm comfortable with making decisions on the fly, but I think we're in front of this. We've seen what's happened in the past. Direction from council is a much better scenario than me just personally making a decision.
Well, we got to give you a little bit of freedom in there in the fact about for level of exposure, and so it gives some judgment about. I mean, quite frankly, we've potentially all been exposed tonight, so I mean, we wouldn't want to shut the whole place down just based on that. But if someone, we need to give you a little bit of freedom in there, but we need to give some guidance, and again, for educational purposes, and also to give you a framework.
So you guys are comfortable with me going to Shane Black and basically saying, here's what we've done in the past. We basically want to continue that, put this guideline in, this guideline, these very specific languages about if you test positive, et cetera. Have that drafted brought before the next council meeting. Is that good with everyone?
I'll make that a motion if you want one.
Well, we don't have to have one, but I appreciate that. So we'll just get that together and bring it to the next council meeting for you guys, and then we'll have something that John will offer. Absolutely. And we'll try to get it out by mid next week to the latter part of next week so that you have plenty of time to look at it prior to the meeting, suggest any changes that you might feel are necessary. Okay? All right, so we'll move on with that.
In the meantime, I think we should continue to allow you to do as you.
Have some discretion.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. Councilor Walker.
Yes. Over the last few months, we've been talking about our phone system and the need to upgrade that and our internet service in support of that upgrade. We have done quite a bit of research on and had several quotes on what we can actually get. And tonight we have, I think we'll offer in the form of a motion to enter into an agreement with VC3 for our phone service, voice over IP service. It's a centralized service that we'll be able to use. It will allow us, along with the internet service that we'll mention in a moment, to be able to communicate across our facilities without transfer calls. We'll be able to have direct numbers to a particular building, so people don't have, if they already know where they're going, they can go directly to that person without coming through City Hall. A lot of business class features for a phone system that we don't currently have. Many of you may have called in and tried to leave a message, and you can't today.
Yeah.
We will have that feature in the future.
No voicemail after. Well, there's no voicemail at all. And there's nobody to answer your call after 4 o'clock. So I agree with you, Brad. I think it's a business need. We're in the business of serving the community, and that's the bottom line. So I have a motion from Brad on the phone system. What was the total cost per month on that?
The monthly cost on that phone service is $620, and I believe 33 cents.
And that
per
will
month.
facilitate phone service at all of our facilities with the exception of Bradford Park.
I misspoke. It's $620.66 per
Okay.
month.
All right. And that could change slightly if we add another fax line. All right, I have a
Very
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, I believe by Kirkman. I think she got that. Any further discussion on bringing in a modern phone system versus our 1989 version? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let the record reflect we're going to get the phone systems going. Next, Councilor Walker.
So yes, we also have been discussing the internet service at our various locations, and you'll see on the screen a list of those. City Hall, Rock School Complex, Bicentennial Park, PHCC, Psych and Community Center. Psych and Community Center today don't have internet services in order for us to provide, or phones for that matter. So those would be two additions to our monthly expenditure. And there is some increase due to the nature of voice over IP systems. The turning your voice into ones and zeros requires a lot of bandwidth. So some of these sites will have an increase in bandwidth to support that. And that's where the cost comes in. Roughly about double the cost of what we're paying today, but we are adding 2 new sites to
3 actually. When you
three,
consider that
3 actually, yes.
the portion of the Rock School Complex that we occupy outside of the library currently does not have any.
That's correct. And the monthly cost on that would be approximately $4,944.83. Could be a little less, a few dollars more, depending on installation, things like that.
Agree, and I think it's also important to point out that a lot of these expenses will be offset by the fact that we're already paying around $2,500 to $2,600 for those types of services today when you count telephone, internet, in different facilities. So those costs would go away. So the truth is you're probably adding about $2,000 a month to our expense, but you're bringing 3 facilities online. You're improving the services vastly, not only for our operations on a day-to-day basis, but also for the public consumption and use when they're trying to get on a hotspot and do some homework and things of that nature at Bicentennial, over by the Rock School Complex, down at the ballpark, up at the Phcc, et cetera. So it's a dramatic enhancement of services that are available. It improves our operational end as well as putting services where they should have been a long time ago. We just hadn't gotten to yet. So,
And to be clear, this is with Charter Internet Services. They were not the lowest bidder. The lowest bidder was through a broker, and in the technology industry, brokers are really third-party resale of services. They purchase bulk services. You may have seen that with your wireless services, your cell phones. They purchase a line of service from a carrier, and they resell it to a vendor like VC3 or directly to a customer. And it's really risky because that line of service can be discontinued through that broker, and all of a sudden you're without service. So that's the reason we did not go with the lowest bidder on that one.
well, the continuity of communication. When I have a problem with a service, I'm speaking directly to the provider of that service.
Yes.
Versus having to go through a third party, hope they get in touch with it. It's just a much smarter way of doing it. All right, so you dropped that in the form of a motion?
I did.
All right, and do we have a second on that motion?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Additional conversation from council.
Well, one quick question. I know we've discussed this in advance. This did come into your budget?
It did, it's right there at the number.
Excellent.
Additionally, another piece to understand is once we start creating these Wi-Fi mesh networks around Bicentennial Park, in this facility indeed, at the ballpark, at the PHCC, if we go that way, and you make those services available to the public, part of these monies, at least through 2024, we can use some of the money from the American Recoveries Act because you're making that service available to the public. So that'll offset some of the cost over the next 2 to 3 years as we continue to grow and expand as a community. Make sense?
It does.
All right. But it did fall within the budget numbers I had laid out, actually. Hit
So
about
we're
what I
really
thought.
moving into like I say, a much more modern situation. Everybody knows you need modern bandwidth and stuff. And this will give us a good platform throughout the city.
Well, there's a lot of for examples. For example, if someone has my direct number here at City Hall, I'll have a phone on my desk, but I'll also have an app on my phone that connects to that same phone number. And I can tell that app, hey, I'm out of the office, ring my cell phone. I can answer that phone as if I'm here at the office. I can check voicemails after hours. There's just so many more things that you can do, which we should do. All right. Is that a motion and a second? Additional conversation? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Let the record reflect, we are heading toward the modern times, if you will.
And that was the 3-year?
That is 3 years.
That's 3
Yeah.
years.
Again, based on Alabama competitive bid law, it must be 3-year contract.
Right,
So,
and the 3-year contract was a little bit higher than the 5, but we were prohibited from the 5-year contract.
Yes.
At this time.
Okay.
That could change.
Yeah,
with
the 5-year
next
was
session.
significantly less, but again, we're bound by Alabama state law, so.
That's okay. All right, the next thing we're moving on to, discussion concerning the monument sign at Pinson Bicentennial Park. As I understood it from council in the pre-council, what you would like me to do is get some kind of professional rendering of what a monument might look like over on the property, as well as the sign, how it would be placed, kind of a 3-dimensional look, if you will, in addition to parking on the other side, which was suggested by Councilor Churchwell earlier in the week. Thought that'd be a better fit for the parking and the aesthetics of the project in general. So I don't anticipate there'll be further discussion here, but I will seek some architect rendering. If you guys have a suggestion of an architect you'd like me to use, let me know. Otherwise, I'll seek one. And if you have suggestions as to the design ideas, I would welcome that from anyone. All right, Councilor Tanner.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase 3 ice machines or makers in the amount of $13,097.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any additional conversation?
There will be no locks.
There shall be no locks, and we're basically putting these machines in place of, in some places where their Coke machines are today that are leaking and just, they're old machines. Coke kind of got out of the ice machine business a long time ago. They attempt to continue to service what you may have had for the last 20 years, but those are increasingly becoming less serviceable units. So it's us putting these in place to use at the ballpark as well as Bicentennial. Any additional conversation? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the ice machine say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We shall buy ice machines. Thank you. Eric will be pleased.
And for those that had an over and under bet on whether or not I would say anything about ice machines, you did win. You went with a no.
Think there was a pool in the back of the room?
There was.
Congratulations, Eric. I believe you won. All right, Councilor Roberts.
Yes. Moving on to something a little more expensive, but still also I think important, is that I would like to make a resolution concerning the purchase of a street sweeper. We had a little bit of discussion last time, and I had some concerns about the particular model. Councilor Churchwell and myself had seen a model at a conference that we'd been to back in the spring. We really liked it, and so I'd ask Eric to take a look at that and come back to us on this. Before I actually formally propose the motion, I'd like to just state that there's been some discussion. I've been approached by some members of the public and stuff about, do we really need a street sweeper? And I think for council's purpose, it needs to be that we're already sweeping some streets here in the city. The cost, matter of fact, it's on the bill schedule tonight. The amount of money that we're spending for street sweeping would allow us to purchase a machine, and actually would be cheaper over time to own our own machine. So this would allow us to be able to expand the role or the amount of streets that we could have swept, basically without spending any more money than what we had. The mayor will actually probably interject about how he's got some ideas here on even having the monies come from some other sources, which will even be
I will, and that's an important point to make, if I may interject.
Go ahead.
I know in recent weeks it seems to a general public, if you haven't kept up with it on a rapid pace, and I understand how difficult that can be sometimes, that it seems like we're just spending money out of our mind. We're giving 150 here, 160 there, 75 there. The vast majority of those monies in this rapid fire pace are coming from the American Recovery Act money. We were infused with a certain amount of money recently, and will be infused again a little less than a year with an equal amount of money. Our task is to figure out how to spend that money as we feel like best serves our community. We felt like purchasing this piece of equipment is one of those pieces of equipment that, again, like Councilor Roberts said, is offsetting costs that we're already spending to the tune of about $30,000 a year. We won't spend that anymore. We'll actually have a person driving this around, getting a lot more done with it. Indeed, you might see me on a street sweeper. It's very possible. I might come down the road waving at you. I will not be looking at my phone while driving the street sweeper. If Eric allows me to drive the street sweeper, because he'll be in charge of it. But the American Recovery Act money for large municipalities is a really easy fit. Now, say Birmingham's getting $100 million or whatever. It's easy for them to find buckets to fit the money in because they're so large, they do so many things. Our focus is much more narrow, so we had to be creative in our thinking as to what kind of things can we spend. And this is this is one of those things that came from that line of thinking. If we don't spend the $843,000, we have to send it back. Well, that would be a disservice to the people of Pinson to say, well, we took your share of money, couldn't figure out how to spend it, so we had to give it back. I think the public would probably be more angry with us if we did that than if we were able to figure out how to spend it. So just to make sure that people know that this money would be coming from that pool of money. as well.
So again, we have expenses that we're already spending, and then here's another aspect here where we could eliminate that too. I mean, that's called a double win there on that. We're already doing some street sweeping in certain places. You know, when things are clean, people don't think about it. But I can tell you from experience, I believe it was Councilor Tanner that actually brought this original idea to us several years ago. And it makes a big difference when you get ready to pull out onto the road. And let's face it, gravel builds up in the streets just from normal wear and tear of the roads and from drainage issues and that sort of thing. No matter how hard Eric and them were trying to keep the water out of the road, when it rains hard, stuff can still get out there. You hit that and you start sliding. And the next thing we know, the fire department has to be called in because of the collisions that occur. So it's a valuable service to the people that are out riding on the road, and we've recognized that in the past by having the service. We just want more of it, and if we can have more of it and it not cost anything, well, that sounds like a great idea. So in light of that, I would like to make a motion for the resolution concerning the purchase of a street sweeper for the model as shown up here, which is a little bit lengthy, but it's the Model 435 Comdex air filter for the price of $169. Is that what we're saying there?
$69,960.
Yes, $169,960.
That's correct.
Second.
I have an offer and a second. Additional conversation on the street sweep.
One small comment that I want to make. It's something when we have other schools coming in, I've had, since I'm at the school a lot for football games, I've had the opportunity of hearing them say how clean our Pinson Boulevard is. And this kind of came about when we talked about this, about going into Palmerdale, because we do not go all the way into Palmerdale yet, but we will. But anyway, I've had numerous comments about how clean our curbs are. And with this also, by going through the CARES Act, it frees up budgeted money that we had already put in the budget. So that's just kind of an extra bonus there.
Right, indeed. Additional comments, questions? All right, seeing none, roll call on the main resolution.
Counselor Tanner?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Churchwell?
Yes.
Counselor Kirkland?
Yes.
Mayor Cochran?
Yes, and that passes as resolution number 21-27. We shall order the street sweeper. It should take 90 to 120 days to receive. In the meantime, we'll continue with our service with Sweep Corp until we get it, get trained, and I'm able to drive down Pinson Boulevard in a street sweeper.
I'm glad those insurance folks left before they found out that some might have been changed dramatically.
I believe I insulted by your remark. You were questioning my skills on driving the street sweeper.
Do we have a date of ending that contract with the current sweeper?
Well, we're on a month by month, really, with those guys. We're
Month
not,
by
I
month.
don't think we're under an obligation to,
Okay.
you know, so at any point in time, we want to end our service with them. Once that happens, we're ready to go. At least I know I haven't signed a contract.
I don't think we have one.
All right, moving on, we have a resolution, continued conversation about a resolution we talked about last week, and that is the premium pay resolution. Since we spoke about this last, I believe lots of people have done research and communicated with different members of staff around the building, not necessarily pro-con, trying to derive information as to help you arrive at a decision what you think's right. I was at the Mayor's Association luncheon yesterday. We had 16 mayors there from Jefferson County. I took an informal poll and found about 10 cities either are planning on paying in this current round of money, or in the case of Mountain Brook, paid from the previous round of money through the CARES Act money, because it was also made available at the time. We've had differing opinions from different attorneys. We had our attorney tell us one thing, which is, hey, you're doing this moving forward. And then we have the attorney of note, Ken Thompson, who used to work for the law firm we use. He is now the attorney for the Jefferson County Mayors Association. His opinion was slightly different in that you can do it for retro. So basically, the two attorneys' opinions are covering the gamut, if you will. And it even goes on in this document, to, you know, he prepared a document for the mayors to see of how to spend this money, where the buckets are, and what guidance he felt would be helpful. The same has happened with our attorneys. They've done that same type of thing that we sent out to council a few days ago. So most municipal attorneys are getting into the game of create a document to help give guidance to your municipal leaders so that they don't stumble and fall, and it answers a lot of the questions. Well, can I spend money on this? Can I spend money on that? But oddly enough, with this particular money coming from the federal government, and we know we're constrained by what they allow us to do, oftentimes their suggestions aren't something that we like, but in this particular document, it's one of the big things that they suggest, that people that are working the front lines, that are working with the public, that are taking on the burden of being exposed to COVID possibly every day, to continue the burden of operating a city, a municipal government, and all of its tentacles and entities, that's one of the highest suggestions they made. So I know there's lots of different opinions on it. I'm prepared to take those opinions. We can take this resolution up today. We can hold it off for a couple of weeks and continue the research. It's up to you. We don't have to do it right now. It's not an immediate thing. Yes,
Mr.
Councilman
Mayor, I'd like to table this
Okay.
to the next meeting.
Would you like to talk about it some more tonight?
No, I think we're still talking about it
Okay.
and just trying to figure out so before everything's made.
And that's fine.
So-
And that's why we meet as a group, so we can get the feeling of everyone involved. Robbie?
Well,
We can
I mean-
still have a
okay.
conversation about it,
So,
absolutely.
My opinion is formulating, my initial opinion was pretty resistive to this, because I knew that our employees had not missed any pay in the past. And I kind of know that's kind of a little bit of the intent there with that. Now we've got an attorney's opinion saying we can look backward. But one area that was brought to my attention is that we did freeze raises last year as COVID came into play, just at the time when several employees were fixing to get a raise. And we did that because, and I was one of the most vocal ones about it, and that was because we didn't know what impact COVID might have on our sales tax receipts. And I thought, well, if everything shuts down, people don't have any money, they won't be spending it, we could end up in a budget shortfall, we shouldn't be doing this. So we pretty much put everybody on a lockdown. The amounts of money that the mayor has proposed, actually, just looking at some typical salaries, would basically make up for those monies that the employees missed out on because we delayed their raises by 7 months. So in light of that, I'm a little more inclined to entertain the possibility of this. Another thing might be that we might want to have a discussion regarding this concerning any in lieu or in supplement of potential raises for this year. So I think that right there is important. I don't know what the legalities are of that again, but like I say, I wanted to throw those two things out there. But I do think that I'm not in a big hurry to do this. I don't want to drag it out forever, but I do think it's okay to, again, you've been working through a lot of these other areas that we've been doing.
We have.
And I think it sends a signal to the public that we're looking at the big picture while not ignoring our employees at the same time.
Agreed, and as it pertains to increases, our library board has already done that for this year for the library staff. So their increases have been in place for a month. We haven't done anything yet with the remainder of the city staff. But we had some, I think the last time we did some might have been in January, where we were kind of catching up on what had not been done. And so I haven't elected a target date yet for doing the remainder of the city employees. Obviously, we're at a transition period now where we have a lot of employees that are seasonal employees that are about to go offline. If we wait beyond their going offline, that means they won't receive any. So that's consideration. And again, that's presuming that we have elected to do anything. So you guys continue to think about it, and that's fine. If anybody else wants to make additional comments tonight, I'm good with that too. Anybody else want to talk about it some tonight besides just Robbie? And again, no opinions are wrong. Everybody has an absolute right to think about it how they want to think about it. You can be pro or con and have your reasons, and that's okay. I would like to share, and at least take responsibility for something in this way. I could have possibly done a better job of presenting this in the very original beginning and not put council into a position of feeling like they got put on the spot. That was never my intent. That wasn't what I planned to do in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But I think the end result sort of turned out that way. And I wanted to make sure the council understands that I take full responsibility for that. And nobody from the staff should have to worry about any of that kind of thing. That's on me.
And Mayor, your heart was in the right place, and I agree with what you said. When you did say that night, you know, a while back. But, and I appreciate you acknowledging that, you know, to let us, because we needed time to think about, and because we have to answer to all these people. I mean, this is their money, and we work for them. And so I agree with Robbie, the way we've, you know, that what we were, the feedback I was getting, they never missed a paycheck. But, you know, there's a lot more factors into this, and I understand that. So I'm willing to do whatever y'all want to do on it.
That's fine. Additional comments, questions on that subject? Okay. Well, we'll table it up. Perhaps take it up again in 2 weeks. You guys do some more research, and if y'all want to table it again in 2 weeks, that's okay too. I want us to get to a result that's satisfactory to all. I do understand the public perception is an important part of this.
It is.
The public needs to understand that we are the caretakers of the money that we receive on their behalf to do things in their municipality. That's
Yes.
our job.
That's right.
And I don't think anybody on this dais is flippant about that or views it casually. And again, when we speak to the rapid nature in which we've spent some money recently, there has been a slight boom in revenue because of taxes. So you have to balance out for a public saving money and spending money in the public. If you get to the point where you're saving so much money and the public saying, well, you know, my street sure could be cleaner, but you guys are sitting on $4 million, that's irresponsible. You also have to save enough money to have some operating capital. So that balance is something that we wrestle with and we try with all the time. This is part of it. The staff at City Hall, we've got people in Public Works, people in Park and Rec, people at the library. There's all kinds of people touching the lives of individuals in Pinson every day that 17 years ago would have been difficult to fathom if you didn't have a vision. But we've grown up, we've become a very interactive city with our community, and I think that's a great thing. So no one takes any of this lightly. We're not trying to throw money here and throw money there. We're trying to spend monies in a way that is effective and helpful to every Pinson resident's everyday life. Does that make, you guys concur with that?
Yes.
Fairly represented? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before, I know we're tabling that topic, but I just want to clarify in my mind real quickly, the Recovery Plan Act does allow for retroactive or
It does. Both.
yeah, it allows to pay forward or back. However, if I understood your comments from your meeting, the mayor's meeting, association meeting, there's a differing opinion between our attorneys whether in Alabama we can pay it retroactively or prospectively.
There are.
Okay.
And basically what I'm telling you is that the interpretation of the intent of the federal government has been widely disseminated and viewed differently from different attorneys. If that's, if you can possibly
Imagine that.
Sounds
Yeah.
like the U.S. tax code.
And so it's a similar thing. They created a situation, said we're going to create this American Recovery Act money. We're going to put it in the public, and they voted on it, elected to put it in the public, and decided how much it was going to be for municipalities, states, county governments, et cetera. Once they got through with that, and they said, hold on a minute, we're going to write the rules. We've already approved the money, but now we're going to write the rules. So if we as a municipality did things in that backwards of fashion, I believe we would probably be voted out of office and for sure maybe thrown in jail because it's illegal for us to do things that way. But that's the way the federal government works. And so, yes, we are having differing opinions and interpretations of what the Congress intent was, along with President Biden, and what his intent was, which is a significant guessing game for most people.
And I don't think not one Republican voted for this. Am I right, Robert?
That is correct.
That's correct, but, you know, that's the way Washington works. But today, we have the money, and we're gonna spend it on our folks,
Yeah.
and we're gonna use it, and it's gonna be a benefit to us, and, hey, I'm not gonna argue with that, so it's all good.
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Yes, sir.
just make a comment or two on that. You know, last meeting when it came up, basically, we didn't have enough information, in my opinion.
Sure.
And it's not that we are against this. We want to have all the information that we can get to make the right decision. And that's been talked about in the last 2 weeks among all of us, not together, but
Yeah.
on different issues. And so that's what we're striving to find, is that way that is the best way for our city and for our employees.
Certainly.
And I can guarantee you it will be going on for the next 2 weeks. So, anyway, just
John,
wanted
I
to make
can,
that
I can
comment.
guarantee you it will be going on for at least the next 4 years. And that's our job, is to work as a collective group and bring differing ideas and opinions to come to the right conclusion. That's why we're here. All right, moving on. Councilor Kirkland.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to hire a building official / compliance officer.
Have offer of a resolution for, to establish the position of building official compliance officer. Do we have a second?
Second. Yep.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation? I can tell you this position is probably going to pay, in the part-time way, about $28 an hour based on experience. And I would like to hire them immediately in front of us taking this over in October. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, do you have an expectation on this position going to a full-time status?
You know, it's hard to say a year from now, maybe. You know, in the next budget year, come up with, hey, we kind of see how it goes. We know we've got some construction projects going on, but it's beyond that. It's also making sure that people that are doing projects within the city are compliant, that they're doing what they're supposed to do, they have a business license, they're doing things by code. So it's a lot of things. So I think experiment for the 6 months to a year and figure out, do we need to go full-time? And if we do, that'll be a good time in the budget to figure it out. Is that good? All right, so like a roll call vote on the main resolution.
Counselor Tanner?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Churchwell?
Yes.
Counselor Kirkland?
Yes.
Mayor Cochran?
Yes. Let the record reflect that passes as resolution number 21-26. I will get about hiring the inspector. We've already been doing interviews with different people for that position, and I think we're prepared to move forward. All right, we're going to table the resolution we had on the agenda for the Palmerdale Fire District until we get some more information. But we can wait a couple weeks on that. Kind of short on time right now. Well, then, if you would, have yourself to the microphone.
Sorry, this changed since pre-council. I actually just spoke with the vendor, and he actually offers a decent discount on the price of the truck with prepayment, forward payments of that amount. I don't have an exact amount, but it will definitely save us a decent amount of money if we decided to go ahead and do it.
You're saying you'd like us to go ahead and take this up?
I'm fine either way, basically. That's changed from before. I wasn't sure, but I have talked to him during the meeting.
Can we wait 2 weeks and still
Yes,
get that same
I don't
deal?
think it would change. He said prepayment, upfront payment, so either way, it's completely
Give us a
fine.
couple of weeks to chew on that a little bit more and get a little bit more detail
And I'll
on
know
that.
too how much that savings may be,
And
and
then
still,
give us a better calculation on that.
I just
That'd
wanted
be
to
great.
make sure y'all knew that information.
I appreciate it.
Oh, and you need to let the audience know how many weeks or months it's been since you smoked.
It's been a month and 2 days now.
Great.
So we're making progress.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on your path to healthy living. I like it. All right, so again, pushing that aside tonight. We'll pick it back up. Moving on, Counselor Churchwell, if you will.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of portable lighting equipment in the amount of $7,439.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, somebody like to explain that?
I'd just like to say this is portable equipment that the city will be able to use during Butterbean Festival. It'll be able to use during the Christmas parades and different places like that. It can be used. And here again, it keeps us from having to go to other cities and borrow their equipment. So I think it's a good deal.
Yeah,
I agree.
I love the portable generator portion of it as well. It's got a diesel-powered generator on board, which powers the lights, and that in itself makes it very valuable. Any other conversation?
I'll say something. Fast. I mean, I think this is something we need. We've had to borrow clays for the last, 3 or 4 years for football games. So in addition to having our own for that, we'll, like Mr. Churchill said, we'll have them for the parade. If anybody knows, where the staging area was, there was a couple of dark places that we really could use one. And then Butterbean Festival on Friday night, it'll be good to have.
Right.
Because we have a couple of dark spaces there,
Yeah,
too.
we may still borrow some more from time to time to
Might.
get a little bit more, but it does give us the ability to respond quickly and not have to back and forth with somebody.
And that's for two
That
two
is
machines.
for two, yes.
This will get it here in-house. Obviously, if we had a big disaster scene going on or something like that, then I'm sure I know that the fire department has some of their own stuff. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to work it, but in a really big scene or something, I know they'd probably appreciate it.
We could help there as well. And I can tell you this, Eric doesn't know this, but I was over at our Public Works Department today while they were doing maintenance and stuff, visiting with the guys. I was. And
He's the mayor.
Stay away.
sometimes I feel like I got to ask Eric, can I go over there and talk to the guy? But what I was going to say is every piece of equipment we acquire, I feel really good about it because the way our guys take care of equipment as if it's their own in their own garage is incredible to watch. I mean, their detail and how they treat the equipment we put in their hands is so impressive that I hesitate zero to put something else in their hands. So I just want to make sure the public knows our guys really take care of the gear. All right, have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? By the lights, Eric. All right, and next on the agenda, Counselor Walker.
Yes, we've had an organization come in and evaluate our capabilities when it comes to AED equipment. That's our artificial heart-starting stuff. Defibrillators. Thanks, I couldn't think of the word. They've evaluated our sites and suggested some quantities to be placed in relevant positions so we have access to that equipment quickly in the event of a cardiac emergency. I'd make a motion that we proceed with that purchase for in the amount of $33,835.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Also bear in mind, this is also being able to be paid for out of the American Recovery Funds as well. So it's another good use of it. We're going to if we approve this, we would outfit most of our municipal buildings with the appropriate number of AED units, as well as have training for the city. These guys come out and check these on the regular basis as part of the contract. And in 4 years, they will replace all of the batteries and pads in each of the units. So these units will be good for 8 years. This price covers all of that for the next 8 years. All right, any additional questions or comments, guys? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect, ayes carry. We will purchase those. And Counselor Roberts.
Yes, we also are in need of this seems to be becoming a regular event, but obviously with the technology upgrades that we're doing throughout the city, we continue to see more things that need to be added, and so we are in need of some new laptops and some accessories to go along with those. So I'd like to make a motion that, and I was looking for that total amount, I'd like to make a motion for the purchase of this equipment at the amount of $13,556.14.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. To elaborate on that, that would purchase basically 4 laptops, one being a MacBook Pro. 2 of the laptops will be set up as units, one for the new position we just hired, and one to replace a unit at Bicentennial Park in the office, then one to replace a unit at the splash pad, getting everything on the same page, if you will. Sometimes people look at these things and they say, well, that seems like an exorbitant amount of money for 4 laptops. Well, it includes a lot of monitors, a lot of wires, the setup, the installation, the getting it on our system, the IT guys getting everything set up. We don't have internal IT staff, so that includes all of those parts and pieces. Any additional comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, tomorrow, who should we task that with to purchase these, to make that call? Will that be Heather's job?
Possibly.
Will that be Leah's job? Okay, I would like to
Heather.
order these tomorrow. All right, that really finishes up the primary agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add from the dais before we go to public comment? Councilor Kane.
I do. Tomorrow night kicks off football season. The Pinson Valley Indians will be playing the Hewitt Trustful Huskies at Trustful. And remember, any of the games that you go to, you have to buy the tickets online now at GoFan. And then next week, we start with middle school and JV football and volleyball starts next week. So,
Yes.
And don't y'all forget Saturday in Coleman's Trump's rally.
Donald Trump is having a rally. It's a fundraiser for, what's his name up there in that end of the state? Congressman, I can't.
Yes. and-
Mo
Mo
Brooks.
Brooks. That's a Mo
Yeah,
Brooks
Mo
fundraiser, that's right. Additionally, Saturday, I did fail to mention this, I did on the PSA earlier in the week. There's a referendum at Deerfoot Point this weekend, Saturday from 7 A to 7 P. If you live within that community and you are a registered voter, you have a right to come vote and decide whether you want to be a part of the city or not. You vote yes, you vote no. And so at the end of the evening, we'll count the votes and then turn those over to the Board of Registrars after that. I'm not involved in the process, obviously. Bob will help manage that. We have, your regular poll workers there like you normally would, except it is a paper ballot that they will just check a yes or no box, drop it in this big black box we have. It's old-fashioned looking, but when you're having a referendum of that nature, that's satisfactory. So that vote takes place this Saturday from 7 A to 7 P. If you do not live in Deerfoot Point, you do not have a right to vote in that election. So if you live in Innsbrook, don't be going to Deerfoot Point thinking you're going to vote on something, because you're not. It's just for the guys in that community that currently do not reside in Pinson.
Mr. Mayor, approximately how many voters are there?
You know, I think we've estimated there to be 200 to 300 potential voters there. I think 200. Probably no more than that. The community itself could be as many as 500 people in the community. So,
It's a big referendum.
well, when you look at the last census, we've grown since the last census as a community in 10 years by about 60 people. But we just haven't had a lot of building and construction and things of that nature. Well, Saturday, we could grow by 500 in 12 hours. So that's pretty remarkable. And then when you consider the expansion that we do have, construction starting back up in our community, growth is upon us. So I think it's a great story to tell. When your community's growing, it's fantastic. Any other comments from the dais before we go to the public? Gene, since we skipped you first, I'm being told we have about 10 minutes left on the broadcast. If you could take a minute or two, we can stretch it out further. It's okay. So I hate that you were tardy earlier, but I completely understand why. You guys have been busy fighting a house fire.
I apologize for our tardiness, but we had about 10 incidents within about 45 minutes. House fire, wreck, a person died in their home, another wreck, just a ton of incidents all popped up at the same time. And fortunately, everything was managed and no other serious injuries. One of the things that we did have is we're approaching football season. We did have an athlete had a medical emergency that was transported from the Clay area, so but taken care of and transported to a local hospital and hopefully in good condition. Reporting on the month of July, there were 908 emergency responses within the fire district. It gives us 6,392 for the year, up 1,038 from the same time last year. 320 patients were transported, bringing us up over 309 same time last year. 18 times we received some help, 20 times we provided help to our neighbors. 339 responses out of Fire Station 1, 221 out of Fire Station 2, 95 out of Fire Station 4, and 253 out of Fire Station 5. Thursday was our busiest day. Cross between 3 and 5 o'clock in the day. We tied on both those days at 57, those hours for 57 runs each. And breakdown, 2% were fires. We had about 10 structure fires within the month of July. A couple of them fairly serious. 7% were false alarms. 7.5 were good intent. Service calls were 14. Hazardous conditions with our little rain and our lightning and all the different events ongoing. We're going to get a boat to go down. Well, we have boats to go down Sweeney Hollow Road already, but we thought we were going to have to get them out today. But turn around, don't drown. A message you got to send on that because we know that road floods. Don't go that way. If you know it's raining, go the other direction. EMS was about 68% of our runs. So staying very, very busy as usual there. Some things going on in the fire district, of course, Fire Engine 2 and Fire Engine 1, the Pinson engine with the Spear, is still at the manufacturer being completed. We hope to get it within the next couple of weeks, hopefully first week in September. We hope to have it here by first home game. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but we're shooting for it. We lobbied pretty hard, or we've met several times on House Bill 220. We're talking building inspections. There's a proposal on, well, there is a law on the table right now that was approved by the legislature that any building project in school systems under 500,000 does not have to go through the normal inspection process through the Department of Construction Management through the state. The fire service has been pretty opposed to that because we have precious little ones and professionals that work in that building. So we've been working with a committee down there to make some adjustments for that. The Alabama EMS Challenge is still offered the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month at 9 a.m. through Microsoft Teams. If you're a nurse or a paramedic, you have free continuing education. Had the opportunity to represent the state of Alabama and the Center Point Fire District in the city of Pinson at Fire Rescue International. It's one of the largest fire conferences in the world. But we went up and spent a few days in Charlotte to learn a little bit more about how we do our job, from drugs in the workplace to command leadership. If you drove down the old Pinson Road, you might see something sticking up out of the ground. Not a rock this time. It's a little bit better than a rock, so it's getting a little closer. And then we already talked about football. We have one of our neighbors that participated in our barbecue competition a few months ago that has gone national. He will be on Guy's Grocery Store on August the 25th at 7 p.m. on the Food Network. Chief Justin McKenzie, the fire chief for the city of Fultondale, I call him Chief Grill Daddy. He does a great job cooking. He helped us with our golf tournament, but he's made the national stage and he will be on that night. So tune in. Let's cheer him on.
And Rhino, just so you know, if we're going to start calling out nicknames, we know you're Rhino.
Hey, that's it.
Chief Grill Daddy has also consented to come over and help with our veterans and first responders thing. It's really not a city event per se, but it is on city property. We communicated with him and asked him if he can be the head chef for that, and he said absolutely, just find the right date. So that's the kind of guy you're dealing with.
Oh, yes, sir. He's a great partner for us. Unfortunately, earlier this evening, received notification that Anniston Fire Lieutenant with the city of Anniston has passed away from COVID. There are 3 Georgia firefighters that have died within the last 3 days, and then 1 Florida firefighter. COVID is a very serious issue. If you have not got your vaccination, I strongly encourage it. Practice social distancing, take good care of yourself. It's a bad thing with people with health problems. We want to make sure that you're aware that it's there. Other than that, does the council or mayor have any questions?
No, we appreciate what you guys do. You and Chris show up here all the time telling us the statistics and stuff, but I've seen you guys in action. I've actually been on a truck and got to go on and drive a lot. These things, it's just amazing what you guys do. Really, for the amount of money you're paying, we appreciate it.
Any of the council's always welcome if you want to come ride with us, and I'm pretty sure Chief would do the same. To see where your tax dollars go. And what we do for the community and how we do it. It's a great opportunity to learn new things and what really goes on in our community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Chief, you let us know if you need a boathouse or pier installed on Sweeney Hollow Road. And we'll see if I can get that put in with the problems we have.
If we could get some gates right at 25th Avenue and right at Wood Drive, in most cases, that would we could lower down. After so many inches of rain, that would make,
I've been tempted to tell the county, if you won't fix the road, at least give us the automatic gates.
Yeah, just give us something. Then just put the gates up there. I'll send somebody over to let them down. That's not a big deal, but
You
gosh.
just gotta be careful not to catch somebody between the gates.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
And then the cage.
Well, thank y'all for the opportunity. Keep the beat where you sleep, close the door where you snore. 911's our number, and we're making house calls.
Thank you, Chief.
Fear the spear. I'll be there tomorrow.
Fear the spear, indeed.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, who else would like to participate in public comment? Mr. Hatch. If you would, when you approach the microphone, state your name and address just for the records, even though we may know you, and we probably do, we still need to have it.
James Heights, 5900 block of Miles Spring Road, Pinson, Alabama. I'll keep this as brief as I can. Let me clear my voice a minute. I'm as tired as everyone else, or probably a little bit more tired. Today's my birthday, and I'm 70. So,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I hope it's a happy birthday. But what I need to ask is, there's a public event happening this weekend, or as a matter of fact, it's Sunday, at the Palmerdale Homestead Community Center. I would ask if Luke is going to be welcome, plus his companion, which he has to have with him, which in all likelihood, unless something comes up, I will be his companion. Reason I ask this is because Luke and his companion went to a public event last week at the Palmerdale Homestead Community Center and was asked to leave and told to leave because, for the simple reason, they were going to the restroom, walking down the hall to the unisex bathroom and the handicap accessible bathroom. They were told to leave. I would ask that no roadblocks be placed in front of my son or his companion where they cannot go to the bathroom or do what's and everything like that to take care of himself. He has to have assistance in the bathroom. I will tell you that.
Yes, sir.
I ask that we will not be met with a roadblock, of which I have a deputy sheriff report here, which says Barry Wilson stated this, president of the community center, stated that he would wish to trespass Heights from the property. And I would ask that my son not be faced with the possibility of being met with a trespass warrant or anything like that, because I don't want to put him with it. But he does have a right to go to a public event. Both events were public, open to the public, the one last week and the one this week. Thank you. And I need to know now, is he welcome at the city facility?
I'm not going to speak to any of that happens, but if it's a public event, everyone is welcome.
Okay, thank you.
No one is specifically invited, but everyone is welcome.
What is the
That's all
event?
right.
I'm curious.
They have pageants there.
So this is a pageant that would be occurring?
Here's the documentation if you need it. Could you give it to him, Mr. Jones?
I have the ability to acquire that, so we're fine.
Oh, okay.
What
So
kind of
I just want to clarify, so this is a beauty pageant that's taking place?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
it's called It's called the Disney Diva August the 22nd Beauty Pageant. Luke's been to hundreds, probably dozens of them things in the past. Luke is an incapacitated individual. He is 28 years old, but his mentality is a 5 or 6 year old. So he acts like a 5 or 6 year old. So he's interested in music, moving lights, dancing. That's what they do at these things. And he has actually what's called kabuki syndrome. He has 24 different disabilities. And that's why I'm asking you all these questions and everything. And it is, according to advertisement and everything, it's a public event.
Yes, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak to public comment?
Not me, Joe.
All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We are hereby adjourned. Thank you for attending. Have a great evening. Wait a minute, I think we're on.
It's okay.
Is it?